Let me say the quiet part out loud. The universe isn't testing you anymore. You stopped volunteering for the exam. Sounds bold, but you'll know if this fits in the next minute. I'll walk you through a clean systems lens. The old loop needed your doubt to run. Your new loop feeds on clarity and ends the argument before it starts. We'll decode the 3 most common misreads people make here and lock in the cues that you're done with. Prove it. Energy. Simple. Grounded. No clickbait. Just recognition. The old loop collapsed. When maintenance costs spiked, there's a quiet threshold where staying the same costs more than stepping out. You don't spot it while it's happening. You only feel the air clear after the engine stops grinding. That's the moment most people miss. The sudden drop in noise that isn't a high, just relief. The pushback fades, and you realize the fight was the thing keeping the story alive. Here's how the old system ran itself. Something poked you, an off comment, a delay, a shift in tone. It lit up your nervous system. Your thoughts jumped. Your body followed. You reacted, then replayed, then judged yourself for reacting. That judgment sent you hunting for proof that you weren't wrong, or that they were. You pulled receipts, checked timestamps, reread messages, looked for signs. Then the next small stimulus arrived, and the whole machine spun again. Efficient, predictable, exhausting. You got clever inside that loop. New journals, better affirmations, stricter routines, upgraded boundaries. You tweaked inputs, changed fonts, color-coded habits, stacked morning protocols. But the core cycle didn't care. It kept converting attention into tension. Every micro win was still fuel for the same circuit. Trigger, churn, soothe, repeat. The tactics helped you breathe, but they didn't retire the job. You know where this shows up. That text used to spike your chest. 3 dots. No reply. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. You feel the heat climb. You scroll threads, analyze punctuation, draft a chill response, and delete it. Then one day, the dots come and go, and nothing happens inside. You move on. You almost don't register the absence because you're not white-knuckling calm. There's simply no spike to manage. You catch it later, like wait, there was nothing to diffuse. The silence wasn't empty. It was neutral. Systems have a simple rule. When it takes more energy to hold a pattern than to let it reorganize, the pattern gives up its shape. That tipping point sneaks up. For months, you fed the old structure with attention, control, and let me fix this. Then your baseline clarity rose. You stopped paying its maintenance bills. Without fresh tension to recycle, the loop couldn't self-fund, and it slumped. Think about holding a beach ball underwater. At first, you can muscle it down. Your arms burn. Your focus tightens. You tell yourself this is control, but strength has a limit. The moment you release, the ball flies up and then just floats. It doesn't wrestle you because the fight was only ever your grip. The old loop worked the same way. It had no power without your push. This is why that heavy phase felt so strange near the end. It wasn't the universe throwing extra hurdles. It was the old attractor losing its magnet as your baseline got cleaner. You built a habit of noticing earlier. Your inputs got simpler. More sleep, honest no's, fewer tiny lies. That raised your signal-to-noise ratio. Less static meant less friction. The loop kept trying to recruit you, but your attention stopped signing the contract. But wait, how do you know this isn't shutdown or numbing? A lot of people worry about that. Numbness feels like fog and delay. You drag responses. You say fine and feel nothing move. Avoidance leaves residue. You keep thinking about the thing you skipped. Real shift feels different. It shows up as a clean read and a light action. No story, no drag, no spike later. So what does it mean when triggers stop firing? 2 parts. First, the compulsion is gone. You don't need to check, prove, explain, or replay. The itch disappears, not just the scratching. Second, the response gets simple and accurate. You reply once, you take the next step. Your body doesn't brace. There's no echo you have to chase down. That pairing, no compulsion plus easy precision, means the old loop collapsed, not suppressed, retired. And that opens a better question. If the previous feedback loop died because it couldn't afford itself anymore, what's powering the system you're in now? If the drama isn't pushing you and the proof hunt isn't pulling you, there has to be a new engine running under the hood. You can feel it in the way your day organizes itself with less effort and more room. It's quieter, but it moves. So let's trace where that momentum comes from and why it keeps repeating without you having to force it. The new loop runs on clarity, not proof. The new system feeds itself. No pep talks, no hunting for proof, just a quiet yes that keeps repeating, not loud, not hyped, consistent. You notice it most in the way your day arranges itself without you wrestling it. The fuel is different now. It isn't urgency, it's clarity, and clarity doesn't beg for applause. It just does its job. Here's the boundary shift. Before, you'd try to validate, then act. You'd ask for signs, gather angles, run a few checks, then move. Now it runs the other way. You act from a clean read, and reality confirms after. That's the part the mind doesn't love. It likes receipts first, but in this loop, the receipt shows up as ease after the step, not before. Action is the signal. Feedback is the echo. Of course, the mind gets suspicious. If I stop checking, won't I miss something? Won't I make a mess? That voice assumes chaos is waiting behind every door. The truth is more boring and more useful. You catch what matters faster because you aren't drowning in noise. The checking was the static. The pause created room for your internal regulator to do its work. And no, that doesn't mean you ignore details. It means you stop interrogating every feeling like it's a crime scene. Watch a simple day. A friend sends an invite that doesn't fit. You used to create a story, delay the reply, and carry the weight around. Now you write a short no, and that's it. No apology tour. The hour you would have spent overthinking opens. You take a walk, and an idea you've been missing returns in a few clean lines. You draft it. It works, not epic, just clean cause and effect. Space becomes creative again because it isn't filled with defense. Systems stay stable when small corrections happen early. Negative feedback, meaning the kind that reduces error, keeps a system from wobbling off course. That's what clarity does here. It trims the excess before it turns into a storm. You don't need praise or likes to know you're on track. Your nervous system settles after you move. If tension drops, that's confirmation. If it rises, you adjust. Simple signals, right away. Think about noise-canceling headphones. A tiny mic listens for the incoming static and generates a counter signal that creates quiet. Your awareness does the same thing now. It senses friction early and generates ease by making a small change. Say, no sooner, rest a little, ask the one honest question. No drama, no scene. The silence after is the proof. The contrast is clear. The old loop needed spikes, drama, urgency, deadlines stacked at the last minute to force action. It waited until the alarms were blaring, then it sprinted. This loop reads microsignals, a slight tightness at the thought of a meeting, a shallow breath before opening an app, a tiny stall before answering a call. You adjust there, before it snowballs. That's why days feel lighter. You're turning the wheel a degree instead of spinning it later. So what tells you this loop is in charge now? Without guessing, you'll notice the energetic cues are quiet, but consistent. Early softness instead of edge. Less bracing before a task. Decisions that land once and don't echo. No need to repeat them in your head. You send the message, and your body doesn't flinch. And misaligned chances don't tempt you with fantasy. They feel heavy the moment they touch your field. Not scary, just dense. You can't make yourself lift them. That heaviness is a gift. It saves you time. The softness is a compass. It points to where your effort will multiply instead of drain. And the clean landing after a decision means your attention is free to move to the next true thing. No orbiting, no looping back to double check. The quiet yes keeps repeating because it isn't seeking permission. it's following signal. And the more you trust that, the fewer crises you need to course correct. With this loop active, misalignment doesn't hide behind charm or urgency anymore. It shows up as drag right away before the story can sell you. You feel it the moment it arrives, and you know where to place your energy next. Let's step into why that recognition is instant now, and how it keeps you out of rooms you don't need to re-enter. Misreads that keep you studying for a test that ended 3 clean. Misreads pull people back into the old exam room. Calm isn't apathy, fewer lessons doesn't mean stagnation, and certainty isn't arrogance. They look harmless, like small thoughts you can ignore. They aren't. Each one can nudge you to retake a test you already passed and reopen loops that no longer fit. So let's clear them precisely and keep you in the system that actually works. First, calm gets misread as numb. You think, I'm not reacting, maybe I'm shut down. Numbness feels like gray space. You delay, you avoid. You don't want to touch the thing because it feels sticky. Calm moves differently. You feel a signal, you name it, you choose a response, and you move on. No backlog. You can tell because there's no residue after. If someone asks how you feel, you can answer in 1 or 2 clean sentences. You don't have to explain your way into the feeling. That's responsiveness, not detachment. The system caught the small wobble and corrected without calling a meeting. A quick example you'll recognize. A message comes in with a sharp tone. Before, you would draft 7 replies and reread the thread. Now you take a breath, decide whether it needs a reply at all, send 1 line if needed, and return to your task. Your heart rate doesn't stay high. Your attention doesn't hover at the edge of your screen. You didn't bury anything. You just didn't enroll in extra drama. In a shutdown state, you'd feel foggy and checked out. Here you're present and light, ready for the next true thing. Second misread. Fewer signs must mean the guidance dried up. You start asking, why aren't the lessons showing up? Because the system stabilized. When a system self-corrects, it needs fewer outside interventions. You don't need constant course notes when the internal compass is calibrated. The practical cue is boring and powerful. Your day has fewer alarms. You redirect early, so there's no need for a big nudge. You take water before the headache. You say no before resentment. You rest before burnout. The quiet is not absence. It's evidence that the small fixes are working. Think about how traffic lights work when people follow basic rules. You get fewer sirens, fewer detours, less chaos. It doesn't mean the city is asleep. It means it's regulating. You can still ask for support, but you aren't chasing omens to make simple choices. You can feel the steady pulse of yes or no inside your own body. That's guidance. It just speaks at normal volume now. Third misread, fast clarity equals ego. Who am I to be this clear? That question is a leftover from the old loop where doubt proved you were humble. Here, speed comes from signal strength, not superiority. You feel the click and move. A quick no to a misfit, a quick yes to a right step. There's no chest thump, no performance. The test of this is simple. After you decide, do you relax? If your state settles, that's alignment. If your state spikes, you're signaling yourself to revisit. The feedback is embodied. You don't need a panel to approve it. Here's the quiet payoff that seals it. You stop asking for permission because your nervous system gives you the green light. Breath deepens, shoulders drop, focus returns. That's your check. No likes required. External validation becomes optional because the internal read is consistent and repeatable. When you do need to adjust, it's early and clean. No self-judgment spiral, no apology tour, just a small turn and back to flow. And misaligned paths? They show their texture at first contact. Delay creeps in. You stall on tiny steps. Dread hums in your chest. Distraction spikes. You open tabs, you fidget. You crave a snack you don't want. That cluster is enough. You don't need a full backstory to know it's a no. You exit with no scene. You don't ghost your own signals anymore. You trust them. If you're at this stage, adding more tools won't help. The shift isn't about loading new tactics. It's about not interrupting what's already functioning. Let the loop run. Keep letting clean signals write your calendar and your boundaries. The more you honor the early cues, the less life needs to raise its voice to get your attention. And when the next doorway opens, you'll feel the same steady, yes you've been hearing all along. Conclusion. You didn't beat anything. You outgrew the walls that kept the old loop running. Peace isn't a trophy at the end. It's the floor you stand on now. You move from that level without needing to argue with yourself first. For the next 7 days, let clarity regulate everything. No proof hunts. One honest yes or no per day, said once, acted on once. Note the drop in friction. Less bracing, fewer echoes, more clean energy for real work. If this landed, you already know. There's nothing left to pass. Keep practicing the loop you built, and let that quiet yes set the pace.